has been an object of fear and scrutiny to the world outside the circus.
So, here I am. All my life, I have been here.
Danny exhibits a rare condition known as hypertrichosis, or excessive body hair. It doesn't make him any stronger, but something does.
The truth is that I don't know why they think I'm so strong. Some say that I'm stronger than other people. There is a really heavy trampoline that they need 4 people to carry, but I can carry it, not with one arm, but on my shoulder. They think that I'm strong and they are scared.
Though Danny's strength comes from practicing acrobatics, some whisper that he's some kind of ape-man hybrid. He is not. But they are not the first to believe that the link between human and ape is close enough for the species to cross. In December of 2005, a fairly innocuous open editorial article appeared in the New York Times by animal psychologist Clive Wynne, commenting on ape-human crossbreeding experiments conducted in Russia in the 1920s.
I would say that one can speak of the 1920s as the golden age of Soviet science. Anything was possible.
The story was quickly picked up by Russian and European papers, introducing even more explosive information. An article in the Scotsman newspaper stated that in 1926, the Politburo in Moscow passed a request to the Academy of Science with the order to build a living war machine. A new, invincible human being, insensitive to pain, resistant and indifferent about the quality of food they eat. Monster Quest went to Russia to find out how much of the report was true. The results were surprising.
It was a very interesting story indeed.
Kirill Rosanov is a science historian with the Russian Academy of Sciences in Moscow. In 2002, he says that he uncovered documents revealing that in 1925, Stalin approved a $10,000 grant to a Russian scientist, equivalent to approximately $120,000 today.
The Russian scientist named Ilya Ivanovich Ivanov undertook a very strange experiment. Actually, he went to Africa in order to carry out the artificial insemination of chimpanzee females with human sperm.
Rosanov wanted to know how far this experiment went, and whether Stalin or anyone else in the Russian government knew what they were funding. It's possible that they did not, as similar grants to other scientists were common at the time. Although DNA research was in its infancy at the time, Ilya Ivanov recognized the biological similarities between humans and chimps.
The blood proteins were very similar. If the blood cells are so similar, sperm cells and eggs should be very similar too. And that's why he and other scientists as well thought the experiments could succeed.
After the October Revolution in 1917, the Bolsheviks began to reinvent Russia as the powerful industrialized Soviet Union. It was a time of unprecedented change.
The Bolsheviks thought of science as a powerful tool to modernize Russia and also to enlighten the Russian people. This was a window of historical possibility.
According to Rosanov, the documents reveal it was the French who opened the door for Ivanov. The Pasteur Institute gave him access to their primate facility in Conakry, Guinea, Africa. And in 1926, Ivanov's experiments began. He artificially inseminated 3 chimpanzees over the course of a year. The efforts proved to be futile.
On the one hand, he didn't get the hybrids, the viable hybrids. On the other hand, he couldn't exclude the possibility of success, because 3 inseminations, it was too little. Chances for success were rather low.
After several attempts and no pregnancies, Ivanov's strategy took a drastic turn. He wanted to inseminate Soviet women with ape sperm. Long before Ivanov's efforts, There were ape man stories in Russia, most often called the Almasty, Abanu, or Almas. They were described as 6 to 7 feet tall, walked on 2 feet, were covered in reddish hair, and wore no clothing. A physical description not unlike the American Bigfoot or Asian Yeti. But stories of the Almasty include several important differences. It is said to have a more human-looking face and allegedly used fire and tools.
Dana was a female Abnauyu. Abnauyu is a local name in that place, in Abkhazia. It is between Georgia and Russia.
Igor Burstev is a Russian historian and an expert on the mysterious hair-covered woman named Zena.
He lives in the 1860s till 1890. She's very interesting, wild, human-like creature.
Local hunters went looking for the strange soul who haunted their region. This recreation is true to Abanu descriptions, though, as we will see, Zena may have looked much more human. Soon, the hunters found what they were looking for. She was eventually sold to a local man of means named Genaba.
She was very big. They say that she was about 2 meters high. That means about maybe 7 feet. And also she was very strong. She preferred raw meat. She refused of the clothes. That is why she was always nude, though covered with her hair. Her style of life was very wild, as animal life. She was just a big wild woman.
After being caged for several years, Zena grew docile and submitted to a near domesticated life. Although she never spoke more than a couple of words, she roamed about the village freely and even worked at Genaba's mill.
He tried to use her to carry big sacks with grain to the mill and with the wheat out of the mill. Some about 100 pounds. She was taking just very easily.
And here is where the story takes another unlikely turn. Legend has it that Zena had several offspring with numerous different men from the village. Zena's first child died when she bathed it in the cold river. After that, the local village women raised her remaining 4 children who were seemingly human and of normal intelligence. One son, named Quit, was said to be very strong, ill-tempered, and quick to fight. Quit, along with Zena, was said to be buried in Genaba's family plot in Abkhazia, while Zena's body was not found. Igor says he did locate Quit's remains. Igor has provided Monster Quest with what he claims is Quit's tooth. In 2006, DNA tests on the tooth concluded Quit's mother, Zena, was human, indicating the stories of her height and hairy appearance were likely much exaggerated. However, this expert suggests the results may have been tainted.
It's possible that the DNA that was recovered before was human contamination.
Kurt Nelson is a microbiologist at the University of Minnesota. He plans to run new DNA tests on the tooth.
I'm going to go into the tooth and try to recover DNA to analyze it to see what the nature of the DNA is, to see whether or not Quit was fully human.
Nelson believes it is possible the original results were contaminated with human DNA due to improper sample collection and preparation.
When you touch something, you just automatically contaminate it with DNA. And it's very difficult to get rid of this. The DNA persists very strongly.
So I'm just going to decontaminate the surface of this tooth by brushing it first. About 10 minutes of this scrubbing. Now I'm just going to rinse off the tooth with some distilled water. And then I'm going to place it into a bleach solution for an overnight incubation to further destroy surface DNA.
So if Zena was an Almasty, we possibly could solve the mystery of the Almasty.
For 30 years, we waited for such analysis.
Joseph Stalin's plan for an army of indomitable ape-man warriors would have been a terrifying prospect. Just 10 years after World War I, Russia's army was depleted, and Stalin was desperate for more soldiers and power.
Stalin knew no limits. Stalin was willing to do things that other people would cringe from doing, would never consider doing. Well, Stalin was a part of a culture of secrecy. He bred secrets. He lived in terms of secrets and traded in terms of secrets. Very definitely, Stalin hid things.
We believed that the real story of Soviet history had been hidden or lied about. We really needed to go to the archives that started to open up after the beginning of Gorbachev's reforms.
In 2002, Rosinov combed the Central State Archives of the Moscow region for details of Ilya Ivanov's experiments. The documents reveal that when Ivanov's work in Guinea failed, he moved to the town of Sukhumi in what is now Russian Georgia. It was here the strategy changed.
He intended to do the experiments another way, to inseminate Soviet women with the sperm of an ape male, because in that case you don't need to have many animals. It's sufficient to have just one male as donor.
By 1929, Ivanov acquired several more apes, and among them was the orangutan male named Tarzan, who was to serve as the semen donor. At the time, Ivanov had no way of knowing. His first choice, the chimpanzees in Africa, were a more viable genetic match to humans than orangutans. But he did know all apes are superior to humans in strength. Clive Wynne is an animal psychologist at the University of Florida.
So I read Kerry Rosinov's paper some years back, and it's an amazing story, right?
Wynne says even if interbreeding between apes and humans was possible, the idea that they could be made into soldiers is preposterous.
There's nothing you could do with an ape-human hybrid. As it is, chimpanzees or any of the other apes are much, much stronger than human beings are, but nobody would dream of putting them into armies because, well, how would you order them about? I mean, they'd rip your arm off.
If Stalin really was looking at apes as the perfect breeding stock for a new soldier, he was correct about one thing. They share the same willingness and ability to make war.
Chimpanzees, like humans, can organize with each other to fight against their neighbors.
The question is, if you did cross man and ape, what would the outcome really be? Ironically, the 1967 movie Planet of the Apes may actually make sense. Hybrids would likely have many different attributes.
You can't predict that it would look halfway between a human and a chimp, or they would have the best features of each.
That's right, you don't know. I mean, it might not have the strength of a chimpanzee and the intelligence of a human. It might have the intelligence of a chimpanzee and the strength of a human, so you'd have the worst of all possible worlds. I mean, they'd be a weird bunch.
And if they had an ape's strength and man's intellect, the results could be far worse.
I have always known about man. From the evidence, I believe his wisdom must more